What is up, everyone? It is China McCarney here and AAADNash, apparently, for the beginning of this video. This is a very special video for me. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. It's going to be a mental health profile, so to speak. I'm going to tell my story about my mental health journey quickly. And then because of all of you amazing people, I reached out on my social media accounts at China McCarney over the last week to get questions, any questions people had about mental health, anxiety, panic attacks, and you guys delivered. So I have those questions, and we're going to answer all those, and we'll do this more in the future as well. As I say, telling your story is so powerful. Nashy, chill out, dude. And I want to just create an opportunity for anybody to tell their story. And once one person tells their story, it makes it easier for the next person. That's kind of what happened with my journey. So if you have other questions, mental health questions, anything like that, you can comment below in this video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free, and it allows us to do more, create resources and everything like that. So my journey. There's some questions that kind of address that I have anxiety when I was a kid, and we'll get to those for sure. And I can't really remember exactly. I know I was a worrier, stressed out, thought about things a lot more than other people. But my first panic attack that I can identify was in 2009. I was a junior in college pursuing professional baseball. That's typically the year where you are going to go pro and you're moving up in the draft. I was fortunate. I was doing very well, and then got moved out of the position I was in, and draft stock started to fall. People from so many different voices were telling me where I was going to go, what I should do, all these different things, and it manifested in a panic attack in 2009, and I had no idea what I was dealing with at that point. I was driving up the coast with a girlfriend at the time, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I had to stop the car, I had to walk, my dad had to drive over 2 hours to pick me up, and it was terrible. And I went to the doctor, and couldn't wait for them to tell me what had physically happened to my body. And they said that I had had a panic attack, that my mind had done something. And as an athlete who was in tune with their body and everything like that, that was terrifying to have them say that my mind had caused what I had experienced so extremely physically the day before. And so fast forward, there's no real details that need to be gone into here. 2009 to 2015, I hid my anxiety as much as I could, what I was dealing with, which led to depression because I was living on the outside completely differently than I was feeling on the inside. I masked it with alcohol. I would drink heavily just so I could numb everything, and it just was not fun. And that's what I always go back to, that period of time, those 6 years I look at whenever I'm trying to help anybody or tell my story is, if I can shorten that time for anybody struggling in silence with the foundation, Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression Foundation, or by sharing my story, that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. Because in 2015, I broke down, which is so weird how life works out. It's about 4 minutes from my house now. I live in beautiful El Segundo, and I had ordered some food at The Habit to go, obviously, because I couldn't eat inside because I have my anxiety. And I literally couldn't get the food. I couldn't go in to get the food because of my anxiety and because of the panic attack. And so I broke down. I broke down in my car. I started to cry. I was like, I can't live like this anymore, and I need to get help, and I need to attack this straight on. And so I did. And I looked around for different therapists, and I found one that I connected with, which is key when you're starting therapy or starting help. It's not one size fits all. And I'll get to that at the end of the video, but I found a therapist that worked for me, and she gave me permission to tell my story and to be who I truly was and to not hide what I was dealing with anymore. And all of a sudden, I started to live my best life in a way. And what's funny is when I say that, people are like, oh, you cured your anxiety or your panic attacks. Absolutely not. I still have panic attacks to this day. I deal with anxiety on a daily basis for sure. Panic attacks are a little less common now, but they still happen. So I didn't cure the physical symptoms. What I cured was the stigma that I was attaching to it because of how society is attached to mental health. And so it changed my life. And so 2016, 1 year after reaching out to get help, I did a social media movement called Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression in the winter of 2016. I was this close to not doing it, but one of my best friends, John Spendlove, encouraged me to do it, and I owe him so much because that movement that November was so well received, and there was so much participation, so many people reaching out to me privately, that I knew I had to do something more. I had to do something bigger. I had to get, I had to do something official. And so I got lawyers, people that are smarter than me, and I filed an official 501c3, got the approval in March of 2017 to be a fully functioning foundation, the Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression Foundation. And that's been an evolving journey. I didn't know really what it was going to be. I knew it was going to create resources. And the bottom line now is we provide free therapy. That's our number one resource to anybody struggling. Because like I said, with my story and my journey, that's what changed, is when I started to talk to someone and give myself permission to be who I truly was. And so here we are, 2020, and the foundation is still going strong. We've done events with the Los Angeles Sparks in the WNBA. We've done events with the Arizona Diamondbacks in Major League Baseball. Dr. Disrespect, who was the streamer of the year on Twitch back in 2017 or 18, did an event for us, raised $10,000 in 8 hours. So we've done amazing stuff. And really the coolest part is we've helped people talk about mental health. And that's what today's about. We've got the question and answer that I want to get to now. I went a little over time on my story, but I'll add some details to my story based on these questions. And these questions are a symbol of exactly what I wanted to accomplish by telling my story. I wanted to just give people permission to talk about it, ask questions, because 70% of people, 7 out of 10, deal with anxiety or depression in their lifetime, yet no one wants to talk about it. And everybody kind of backs away from mental health. And that's why a stigma was created. That's why lives are lost, because people don't feel like they have a way or anywhere to turn or a resource. And that's what I want to be. And so I'm going to dive into these questions. You guys were incredible. We'll do this more. So like I said, if you have more comments, comment below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And this is all for mental health, creating a community where we can all be ourselves. So without further ado, let's get to the first question. This is from Shelly Holloway. How do you turn off your stressed out mind at night so you can sleep? This is a great question. I get this question a lot for sure, and I dealt with this. There's a number of different things you can do. I take melatonin gummies that have helped me tremendously, help just get me tired and help me go to sleep. And then breathing exercises. You can lay down before you're going to go to sleep and just count the breath. Inhale 1, exhale 2, inhale 3, exhale 4, so on and so forth. That'll help you get relaxed, kind of like counting sheep in a way. But anything to just help relax your mind, something to focus on to where those thoughts don't spiral out of control. So melatonin, breathing exercises, and experiment with different things for sure. This one's from John McCarney. Shout out. I like that last name. This is my father. Do you think anxiety was always there as a child or teenager, or was this something that manifested as a young adult in your early 20s? Great question, Father. I think anxiety in a way, like I said, my first panic attack wasn't until 2009, which I was 21 at the time, or 22. Don't do the math. It's 2020. But I can think of different things as a child, or definitely in high school as a teenager, feeling very anxious, feeling very self-conscious, and there was stuff in the childhood obviously that led to some lack of self-esteem and lack of confidence or whatnot. So I think there was some stuff there, but I think it's like anything else. People think that if you practice something, you can get good at that, and that's a positive. Well, if you practice deconstructive thoughts or detrimental thoughts, you get good at those thought processes too in a negative way. And I think I kind of built that up over time. And so that's a great question. Steve Pinkston, shout out, Vasquez High School. He was our principal, a mentor, athletic director, just an absolute stud. And this is a great question. As a coach, how can I help a star player with anxiety? So this one's tough because there's no one-size-fits-all approach. the number one word I can say for this, for any coach, anybody in a position, that's a leader, is communication. If you start the communication process about mental health, about anything, just how's life going, how's this, and you create that bond, that's going to help tremendously, because if the player is dealing with an issue, they're going to feel more comfortable reaching out. As opposed to if there's no communication or they don't feel it's a safe space, they're going to have a hard time reaching out. They're going to hide it. And so that was tough. I wish I would have had Coach Pinkston in college, because in high school he was just such an incredible mentor and somebody to be around. And that's why our athletic programs kind of thrived under him. He was just so fun to be around. Next question, Dan Haggerty, one of my favorite, such a great supporter. He has, I have my meltdown every Tuesday. Is there a certain day of the week that most people have an attack? This question was awesome. It made me think, because I tried to think of my patterns and was there anything consistent. For me, there's not a day of the week. And I would say if there is a day of the week for people out there, that you try to switch up your routine on that day. Try to get to a comfortable routine. Keep making changes until you find a consistency to where you're not having consistent anxiety on that day of the week. And then this one, it's a great name, very tough to pronounce. I'm not really sure how to do it, but I think it's Sheila Flanagan DeChicho. What are some of the physiological signs that you notice that help you deal with an oncoming episode or panic attack? So basically, physical triggers that lets me know anxiety or panic attacks are coming. Shortness of breath, tingling, kind of tunnel vision, stuff like that. And that lets me know that I need to get into kind of a comfortable combat mode and do the things that I know help prevent a panic attack, which I'm going to get to on the last question, which is awesome. But yeah, physiological signs, raising heart rate. You can feel that anxiety, kind of the hair stands up on the back. You go into fight or flight mode, but that's a great question as well, because you want to start getting familiar with those signs, both mentally and physically for yourself, so that you know when you have to kind of bring out the toolbox, so to speak. Alejandro Garcia, is it anxiety or young age meltdowns for 10-year-old baseball players? So I used to cry after every strikeout, till I was like 30, just kidding, till I was like 10. But I think it's a combination of both. I think one of the hardest things with youth sports is the expectations of parents or coaches that the athletes feel, because the parents and the coaches take it so serious. And it's, we got to win. We're 10 years old and we're the number of this team in the country. And it's like, we should be building fundamentals and character at that age, not worrying about getting a trophy that you're not even going to remember you have when you're 25, 30 years old. And so I think it's a combination of anxiety and meltdowns because of pressure and just developing as a human being. But we can go a long way with the leadership there as well, with the coaches, parents, etc. Loretta McCarney, another great last name, my madre. Did being a pitcher add to the anxiety you were dealing with during the changes at home and growing from a boy to a man, or did you get some relief when you were out there on the mound? So this is a great question. And I'm just going to answer it personally because it's directed as me. Pitching was my saving grace. Once I got out on the mound and grabbed that ball, I was all about competition. That's what I loved, having fun. It was the stuff around the pitching. Where are you going to get drafted? Where are you going to go? That kind of took away from the pure competition itself, which you have to realize and learn how to deal with, which I didn't do a great job at a younger age. But I think if you're answering that on a broad spectrum, I think it just depends on the home and what you're dealing with. I know we had some things that happened when we were younger that's not typical, but I think it's just going to depend on the circumstance or whatnot. But for me, athletics was such a saving grace and an outlet where I could take any emotion and put it into my competition. Jimmy Estrada, another great last name, because my fiance, who's right over there, who screamed at some point in this video, this is her father, so future father-in-law. And he's got 3 questions. Is there a physiological cause for anxiety, or is it mainly psychological? Does chemical imbalance cause anxiety and depression? Do you think it's genetic or acquired through life experience? So these are great questions, because these are all the topics I dove into when I started to deal with this, because I didn't know anything about it. So I had to research and I had to dive in. So I think the answer to these simply is yes. You can answer all of them with yes, both sides. So I've dealt with physiological causes where I feel uncomfortable and then it causes me to spiral out of control mentally. I've obviously dealt with psychological stuff where there's so many thoughts coming that it manifests in physiological symptoms. So I think it kind of goes both ways, and I think they kind of feed off each other in a negative way, which if you train yourself, you can train your body and your mind to work together in a positive way. Relaxation. If only I knew a yoga instructor or somebody that was great in meditation. Oh wait, she's right in that room, and the daughter of who asked that question. Patrick Boffman, Pat Boffman, one of my high school best friends, now a professional fighter, was a Marine, served our country, just an amazing human being. He's going to close us out. Last question. He kind of prefaced this question with, he exits situations due to anxiety. He's awkward, disrespectful, etc. to people sometimes, and it hinders his ability to communicate well with others. So his question, what has been the biggest factor in determining whether or not you will be able to handle anxiety when it happens, and what is your clutch method with anxiety? So first and foremost, Pat, to address the awkward, disrespectful communication issues with others, I've lived that, and I've lost, I can't even tell you how many friends and relationships over the last 11 years because of my anxiety, especially in those first 6 years where I was hiding it. And I would say no to events. Do you want to go to a concert? No. Do you want to go to this game? No. And it was like, well, what the F is wrong with China? He doesn't even want to hang out with us anymore. And then those friends would just kind of, rightfully so, kind of distance themselves because it's like, what the hell's going on with China? And so I totally understand that, and I wish I would have had the tools I have now back then, because I could have kept friendships and prolonged those relationships or whatnot. But the biggest factor for me, knowing whether or not I'll be able to handle the anxiety, is experience. I've dealt with it so much that I can kind of feel it coming. And then the number one tool I have at my disposal now is I'm almost annoyingly open with my mental health, anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. So I lead with that when I meet people. Like, hey, I deal with anxiety or panic attacks, so I might have to walk away just out of nowhere. And the people that judge you, I get those people out of my life immediately. But most people are like, hey, no problem at all, and they're really cool with it. And that gives you such a sense of just relaxation, just knowing that it's on the table. That's a huge thing. That's helped me tremendously. It's been the number one thing that's helped me, is just being open, and that helps me deal when it does happen in the moment. I can communicate about it, like, I'm freaking out, I need to leave this restaurant or something like that. And so that also ties into the answer for the clutch method. That's my clutch method, communication. And that's how I'm going to close this video. Again, I thank you guys so much for submitting these questions. I was going to try to keep it 10 or 15 minutes. It's at 18, but I think it'll flow because of the questions. And the clutch method for me has been research, experimentation, and just experience. I think anything in life, not just mental health, but that's what we're talking about now. You have to try different things and see what works for you. I call it a recipe, right? Your recipe for your best self or success in anything. Well, recipes are only good because of the ingredients, right? So you have to figure out what are the best ingredients for your recipe, and it's an ever-evolving recipe because life is ever-evolving. And so I've just tried over time a bunch of different things. I stayed away from medication forever, and then last year I tried medication on the lowest dose, and it's helped me even more. So I added that to my meditation, my diet, my exercise, all that stuff. But I wouldn't have any of that stuff if I didn't try. And so if you're struggling out there, just keep trying. Take action every day. One of my favorite things, and the hashtag I use all the time, is be the change. Be the change. Take the action towards the change you want to see in your life. And if it doesn't work out, learn from it and try again. And if it does work out, keep that ingredient as part of your recipe, and you'll be closer to your best self, and you'll be closer to solving whatever situation you're taking action towards. So that's what I got for you. Just keep trying every day. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. You can always reach out to me directly. You can comment below, and be the change. We'll be seeing you soon. Thanks so much.